You look in the mirror and you tell yourself a very comforting, deeply dangerous lie. You tell yourself that you are a fundamentally good person. You believe that you do not manipulate others, that you do not lie to get ahead, and that you do not crush people for your own amusement because you possess a highly evolved, superior moral compass. You think your peaceful nature is a glorious psychological achievement. You are operating under a massive structural delusion about your own identity. There is a terrifying question you have entirely refused to ask yourself. Are you actually a good person? Or are you simply powerless? Are you choosing to be peaceful? Or do you simply lack the leverage, the fangs, and the sheer capacity to be dangerous? For most of polite society, morality is not a choice. It is a biological survival strategy for the weak. It is the defensive camouflage of people who are too terrified of conflict to ever take what they actually want. Over 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli stared into the dark, bottomless abyss of human nature, and he realized this exact, agonizing truth. Machiavelli did not invent human evil. He did not invent betrayal or greed or the psychological destruction of the innocent. He simply became the first man in recorded history to completely remove the polite, civilized filter from the lens of reality. He looked at the kings, the popes, the merchants, and the commoners, and he realized that all of society is nothing more than a masquerade ball of highly evolved predators. And the one truth that haunted him, the one truth that still haunts us today, is that human beings are only perfectly good when they are perfectly stripped of their options. The absolute second you give a human being unchecked power, the mask of civilization violently shatters. To survive in a world where everyone is quietly carrying a concealed weapon of psychological warfare, you must understand the dark archetypes that Machiavelli identified. Because the person who is currently ruining your life, gaslighting your reality, and destroying your peace of mind is not a glitch in the matrix. They are operating flawlessly within the parameters of human nature. The first haunting truth you must accept is the reality of the grinning architect of chaos. We are socially conditioned by fairy tales and movies to believe that villains look like monsters. We expect the people who want to destroy us to scowl, to speak with overt malice, and to openly broadcast their cruelty. We believe that danger looks dangerous. Machiavelli knew this was a lethal miscalculation. The most devastating predators in your life do not wear the face of a monster. They wear the face of the Joker-like manipulator. They are the grinning, laughing, endlessly charming architects of chaos. They use humor as a psychological lockpick to completely bypass your critical thinking. When you first meet them, they are the life of the party. They are self-deprecating. They listen to your problems, and they use excessive niceness to flood your nervous system with dopamine. They present themselves as the ultimate human archetype of the wounded healer, or the loyal confidant. They do not use intimidation. They use absolute, disarming charisma. But beneath the chaotic humor and the wide smiles, they are coldly, mathematically mapping your every insecurity. They weaponize your own desire for connection against you. The Joker-like manipulator operates on pure, destructive nihilism disguised as friendship. They will encourage you to make terrible decisions under the guise of living a little. They will quietly plant seeds of doubt about your other friends, slowly isolating you while making a joke out of it so you cannot accuse them of being malicious. If you ever try to confront them about their toxic behavior, they simply laugh. They tell you that you are taking things too seriously. They gaslight you with a smile, making you feel entirely insane for being upset, while they sit back and gleefully watch the architecture of your life burn to the ground. They understand what Machiavelli knew. If you make someone laugh, they will never feel the blade sliding into their ribs until it is entirely too late. The second haunting truth is the absolute tragedy of the unarmed prophet. You walk through life believing that your innocence is a shield. You think that if you just approach a toxic partner, a Machiavellian boss, or a narcissistic friend with enough empathy, understanding, and open communication, you can eventually heal them. You believe that truth and love are the ultimate weapons against darkness. Machiavelli looked at history and penned one of the most chilling, depressing observations ever recorded. All armed prophets have conquered, and all unarmed prophets have been destroyed. An unarmed prophet is a person who possesses a beautiful vision of how the world should be, who possesses absolute moral purity, but who completely lacks the capacity for violence, consequence, or ruthless boundary enforcement. You are the unarmed prophet in your own life. When you sit down with a predator and offer them your empathy, you are not healing them. You are offering a shark a glass of water. They do not speak the language of empathy. They speak the language of leverage. When you refuse to arm yourself, when you refuse to walk away, when you refuse to deliver absolute, devastating consequences for their disrespect, you are guaranteeing your own destruction. A manipulator does not respect your tears. They do not respect your exhausted, late-night attempts to explain your feelings. They look at your endless forgiveness, and they do not see a saint. They see an absolute, pathetic lack of self-preservation. Machiavelli knew that in the brutal arithmetic of human survival, the universe does not reward the pure. It rewards the prepared. If you refuse to carry a sword, even if it is just a psychological sword of absolute, uncompromising boundaries, you will inevitably be slaughtered by those who do. The third and most agonizing truth is the permanent instability of gratitude. You believe in the invisible contract of loyalty. You believe that if you sacrifice your time, your money, and your emotional energy to pull someone out of the gutter, they will owe you a permanent debt of gratitude. You think that saving someone binds them to you forever. Machiavelli completely annihilated this delusion. He wrote that human beings are wretched creatures who would not keep their word to you, so you need not keep your word to them. He understood that gratitude is the heaviest, most suffocating psychological burden a human being can carry. When you save someone from their own chaotic, self-destructive behavior, you become a permanent mirror reflecting their absolute lowest point. As long as you are in their life, they can never pretend that they are a self-made, powerful god. Your very existence is an insult to their newly manufactured ego. So, human nature dictates that they must eliminate the debt by eliminating you. They will not thank you. They will begin to resent you. They will quietly rewrite the history of your relationship. The Joker-like manipulator will suddenly twist your previous sacrifices, claiming that you were actually trying to control them. They will suddenly find fatal flaws in your character to justify abandoning you. They will completely assassinate your reputation, burning you at the stake so they can finally step out of your shadow and pretend they built their own fire. Your belief in human gratitude is the exact mechanism that will eventually tear your heart completely in half. How do you survive in a world governed by these cold, haunting, inescapable truths? How do you operate among grinning manipulators, ungrateful narcissists, and ruthless predators without becoming completely consumed by the dark? You do not retreat. You do not become a bitter, isolated victim complaining about how unfair the universe is. You execute a violent, permanent psychological evolution known as the synthesis of the armed sovereign. The armed sovereign is the ultimate realization of Machiavelli's dark masterpiece. It requires you to consciously, deliberately integrate the monster inside yourself. You must realize that being harmless is not a virtue. It is a liability. You stop trying to prove how good you are to people who are actively trying to destroy you. When the Joker-like manipulator attempts to gaslight you with a smile, you do not kindness, and you keep your beautiful vision for your life, but you surround those things with a towering, impenetrable wall of absolute ruthlessness. You learn to speak the language of consequence. You ensure that the absolute second someone crosses your baseline of respect, they are immediately, mathematically exiled from your reality without a single drop of hesitation or remorse. You do not rely on gratitude to keep people in your life. You rely on mutual respect backed by the terrifying realization that you are completely, inherently capable of destroying the bridge the moment they attempt to burn it. The ultimate victory over the haunting reality of human nature is not remaining an innocent sheep in a world of wolves. It is becoming a creature so profoundly self-aware, so deeply integrated with your own capacity for darkness, and so heavily armed with uncompromising boundaries that the predators take one look at your eyes and decide to hunt somewhere else. Think carefully about the last time a friend disguised their vicious, calculated insults as a joke, laughing while they slowly destroyed your confidence. When did you finally realize that the smile was just a mask for the blade? Share your absolute darkest survival stories in the comments below, and let us expose these invisible architectures of power together. Subscribe to Human Noir, join the elite few who see human nature exactly as it is, and refuse to be played as pawns in a game of smiles and shadows. Until next time, guard your reality, arm your prophecies, and always remember, if you refuse to explore the darkness inside yourself, you will forever be a victim to the darkness in others.